Hey folks, Pat here from DNS. This Madison area fishing report is current as of May 12th. Before we get started, just a couple things to go over here quick. Got the Casting for Kids event coming up here on May 20th, so not this Saturday, but next Saturday. It's a great fishing tournament fundraiser that benefits the American Family Children's Hospital and UW Carbone Cancer Center. Like I said, that's being held Saturday, May 20th, 8 to 2. It's a catch, photo, and release fishing tournament. They do the tournament for most of the day, and then you can come back. There's a nice dinner, happy hour, and then an auction. So all the money raised goes to a great cause. Many thanks to, I guess the way it works is that the local guides and experienced anglers volunteer their time and boats to take participants out. And it's, yeah, like I said, they raise a ton of money for kids cancer, and if you want to participate, you can go here on their website, register for the event. The website is casting4kids.org. And yeah, if you can't make it, consider donating, because all the money raised here goes to a really great cause. And many thanks to the folks who organize that and the guides who give up their time to help out this great event. Otherwise, another event that's going on June 3rd, right in our backyard here at the Warner Park Rainbow Shelter, is the Yahara Fishing Club's Spring Kids Fishing Day. It's a great event down there. They have, for kids under 14, you show up, you get a free rod and reel and bait and instruction from members about how to bait a hook, cast a rod, stuff like that. It's a really great event, gets a lot of kids interested in fishing, and can't thank the Yahara Fishing Club enough for doing this, because it's important to get kids out there and interested in fishing. So if you got a young person that you'd like to get interested in fishing, and it's totally free, they also have hot dogs and sodas there. So really, I don't know why you wouldn't do this. I've been down there with my kids. It's just a great time. So yeah, stop on down June 3rd right here at the Warner Park Rainbow Shelter. In shop news, so for many years, Gene had the DNS bragging board up here. It was just a bunch of photos, printed photos that were taped to the wall here. It was covered up for many years. Uncovered that and this cool sign here. But we've sort of modified things, and now this is the DNS digital bragging board. So nobody really prints photos anymore. So I rigged up this TV, and when I say I actually mean my wife, rigged up this TV. And so it just is going to scroll through photos right now. We just got it up and running yesterday. So, but we got photos of, friends and family on here right now. But yeah, if you stop in the shop, you can airdrop me a photo, or you could send photos to info@dsbait.com, and I will put them up on the Apple TV here, and it'll just scroll through photos of that local, customers that folks have caught. So yeah, kind of an update to a classic thing that I think every bait shop should have, a bragging board where you can see what's being caught locally. And I guess this is just sort of a different version of that. So happy to have that finally up and running. In other news, so yeah, opening weekend was last weekend. We got seen a lot of pics on social media. Some of these here are from Noah Humfeld, who had some great outings on opening night. Caught some nice walleyes out there, and yeah, had some pretty happy clients. So also wanted to point out that the DNR has been up at the Tenney Locks, and they are shocking in there, and they're getting some huge sturgeon that are swimming up out of Lake Monona. This is actually the smaller of the two that were down there yesterday. They had one that was 64 inches, and I've heard they've got them even bigger than that down there. So it's super cool to see these cool, prehistoric fish swimming around and thriving here in the Madison chain. So thanks to the DNR for keeping tabs on that for us too. I guess we'll get to the report. So for the opener, we had sort of a doom and gloom forecast. We were talking a bunch of rain that never really materialized, and we actually wound up being a great weekend to be out fishing. Outside of a wet Monday, we've had a really beautiful week. They're talking rain today, but it hasn't shown up yet. It looks like Saturday's supposed to be pretty nice. Cooler temps on Sunday, but next week looks gorgeous, like another gorgeous week for fishing. So hope you can get out there and enjoy it. The buoy on Mendota is 60 degrees this morning, so that's a pretty big jump from the 48 we had at this time last week. I heard 61 on Monona yesterday, and I heard 64 on Wabisa yesterday. So I'd say the chain's going to be running anywhere from 60 degrees down to 64 on Wabisa. So anywhere in between there. Of course, you're going to find warmer water up shallow this time of year. Generally around the chain, sounds like folks have had a great opener. Saw a lot of, like I showed you a lot of pics of some nice walleye and other fish. Folks getting out there and enjoying the beautiful weather. For the most part, no matter what species you're after, you're going to want to be looking shallow this time of year. So 15 feet or less of water, or less is what I mean by that, and many times much less. I've been here also getting great reports of panfish and many shallow inlets around town. Early season catfish here on the north side continues to get better and better, with folks getting some huge fish out there. The Wisconsin River is back up a little bit the last couple of days, but is very fishable, and I've been hearing about some nice mixed bag of fish coming out of the dam areas and elsewhere. Let's get into a little bit more detail up here on Cherokee. Action's been spotty up there. We've had some folks having some sporadic, like great bass days up there. I heard that some crappies were in up here. There are folks finding them up against the wood, doing their spawning thing. Down the chain, I've heard the crappies are done and the bass are on beds. But up here on the north part of the chain, the crappies are on beds now, doing their spawning. Of course, there's a ton of pike up here. And like I said, the bass can be spotty. Down at the 113 Bridge area, and Naughty Gal, catfish action down there has been great. A lot of folks getting some good catfish down there. A lot of crappies, white bass coming out of there. Of course, a lot of pike in there too, and largemouth bass folks are getting. So it's a great time to fish that area. Also, the North Bay here, it's been just slamming lately for cats. A lot of big cats coming out here. There's actually a group of folks in town this weekend. A lot of them are camping out down here at Mendota County Park. And they're a group of anglers from all over the Midwest and South. I had folks in here from Iowa, Kentucky, Missouri, all over the Midwest. They come up here to Madison to fish Lake Mendota cats. It's a world-class catfish fishery that a lot of folks don't pay a lot of attention to. But it really is fantastic up here, and so I welcome those folks, and hope they do well this weekend. Otherwise, around the chain, we've had, around Mendota, gotten a lot of reports of some good fish in, a lot of your little inlets: Mendota County Park, Pheasant Branch, Marshall Park, Spring Harbor, University Bay. Anywhere there's shallow water, you're likely going to find panfish this time of year. Been hearing great reports from the bass folks. Early season bass was great for a lot of folks. And now that the opener's here, folks are getting a ton of walleyes, all of them up shallow. Like I mentioned before, 15 feet of water or less, sometimes much less. Folks down here at the Tenney Park Breakwall have been doing well. I know that on opening night, a lot of folks were pulling in walleyes out of here. And in the river below, a lot of walleyes in there. And so Tenney Park's going to be a great spot to fish the rest of the summer here. So cruising down this way, like I said, the river's been good. Same thing over in Monona, basically. A lot of fish being caught shallow, with the cooler water being out deep, so a lot of fish are shallow. Been hearing about some panfish over here in the channels and up in Winnequa Park, and the channels down by Weechobuk, formerly Squaw Bay. Got a lot of reports of some crappies coming out of the triangles down here and Monona Bay along Brittingham Park. The wall has actually been heating up, been doing pretty well over there. A lot of crappies coming out of there, some bluegills. I haven't heard a ton out of Wingra other than some bass over there, and of course tons of tiny bluegills. If you got a kid, that's a great spot to take them. Haven't heard anything from the muskie folks over there yet. Also haven't heard anything from muskie folks on Monona. So if you're a muskie person, let me know how you've been doing out there. I'd be curious. Down here, folks still getting some fish near the Lots Park landing. But I think that action's kind of slowed there. Over to Upper Mud and the Dredge Hole, a lot of panfish coming out of there right now. It's a great time to be up there looking for panfish, crappies in this whole Upper Mud, spawned or spawning or getting ready to spawn. I'm not sure where they're at, but they're in there. Down on Wabisa, also great largemouth bass action up there, and great bass action I've been hearing about on Wabisa. Although I did just hear that there's a bunch of crap floating on the water all around the lake. It's making things kind of smell gross and look gross, but some good bass action around the lake. Panfish on the South Bay down here. Also, the water is very low. I heard over here to Babcock Park, it's getting really tough to launch a boat. They said just 1.5 feet of water over there. So be careful if you're launching a boat at Babcock and cruising around Wabisa in general. down to Kegonsa, again, it's just one of those places I don't hear a lot of reports from. I have heard about some crappies and some bluegills up here in the Fish Camp County Park area. I mentioned earlier, Kegonsa I had heard was at 64 degrees a couple days ago, so probably going to be up in that 65 range for the weekend and into next week. So the water's warming up down there a little bit more than it is up in Mendota. I have heard about some walleyes being caught trolling out in front of the state park. Down to Lake Koshkonong, I haven't heard a ton coming out of here, other than some small walleyes up where the Rock River dumps in. Heard about a few fish, a lot of white bass in here between Fort Atkinson and Jefferson, and then those white bass are backed up here at the Jefferson Dam. Let's see, we go up to Beaver Dam Lake. It has been really great catfishing up there right now. You get a lot of folks, quite a few folks coming in the shop, heading out that way. A lot of great eater catfish up there in that 20-inch range, and they're plentiful. So, and a lot of public access around this lake. So that's fun thing to check out. Crystal Lake over here, I've been hearing about a ton of yellow bass over there. So yellow bass, of course, related to white bass, but apparently more delicious in a lot of people's minds. So if you want to catch plentiful yellow bass, Castle Rock's the place to go. Otherwise, on the river, the river levels are back up just a little bit, but definitely a lot more fishable than they were a couple of weeks ago. Folks are getting fish at all the dams, so they're getting some walleyes and saugers still, but the white bass have kind of moved in. But, just the normal mixed bag you're going to find on the rivers. Lake Wisconsin, haven't heard much out of there except for some short walleyes up here kind of on the northeast end where the river dumps in, and some panfish on Whalen's Grade and the Fingers. Haven't heard much out of Portage up to the Dells. I have heard about some crappies up at the Dells Dam and some white bass as the walleyes have kind of moved out of there. Otherwise, Castle Rock and Petenwell, both dams there. Again, nice mixed bag of fish. Heard about some catfish up there too. So, if you want to take a trip, I have heard the walleye fishing on Petenwell has been good on the lake itself. Haven't heard much out of Castle Rock itself. Over to the Mississippi, the levels over there are still very high, but more fishable than they were when that floodwater had crested. So I hear the walleye bite and crappie bite over there is pretty good. So if you want to take a trip, check that out. Over to Milwaukee, still hearing about some cohos in the harbors, even as far down as Kenosha still. Get over and check that out if you want. They're a delicious fish and plentiful. Apparently there's a lot of alewives still up shallow, so the cohos are following them around. But you got Kenosha, Racine, Milwaukee, all those harbors should be holding fish still. Haven't heard anything about the tribs in the Milwaukee area, Milwaukee River or anything. Haven't heard anything about smallmouth bass moving in there, but that has really turned into a fantastic smallmouth fishery over the last few years. Been hearing about some nice walleye up here to Green Bay. Nothing out of Oshkosh yet, although I bet the white bass are running up the river here in Oshkosh. So if you like white bass, get over there. It's probably happening right now. Otherwise, I guess we'll do the trout. Trout fishing around the area has been good. I do want to start kind of a weekly thing. I'm going to call it Happy Fly Day, everybody. So it's going to be a thing where we just introduce a fly of the week. This week we're doing the woolly bugger. Not that it's necessarily pertinent to any specific time. The woolly bugger is a fly that can catch fish year-round. Imitates a lot of things, comes in a lot of different sizes, sometimes no beads, sometimes with a bead. You can see the quarter here for size reference, but woolly bugger is just a classic fly. It can catch fish literally all year round. It imitates anything from a leech to a crayfish to a minnow to lots of different things. And this will be a feature that I'm going to try to do, and each week, have a little more timely reports about what flies are working when. So look forward to keeping that going. Otherwise, as far as trout fishing goes around the area, fishing's been great. The stream levels have been down. Fish are looking up. There's still not much for weeds, no bugs around. So it really is a great time to get out fishing. David Rowe, who's the fisheries supervisor for the southern Wisconsin area for the DNR, gave a great presentation at a recent Trout Unlimited meeting. And he went over a lot of great statistics. Trout are doing well in the area, but the thing that stood out to me was he mentioned that in 2018 there was a flood that scoured out a whole bunch of streams in the area, and that gave way to great spawning conditions for brown trout. So we have a great crop of brown trout out there right now. A lot of them in the 8 to 12 inch range, and they're going to be bigger next year yet. And I can attest to that. I've caught a lot of the nice 8 to 12 inch fish around the area, and so it's great to hear that the trout are doing well. And I want to thank David for coming out and speaking at that meeting. Otherwise, you know, if the fish aren't looking up to rising to flies, hard to beat a woolly bugger, hard to beat a nymph run through riffles and pools. If you're on the spin fishing side of things, you got a gold panther martin, golden black panther martin's great, rapalas, and of course now that the regular season's open, hard to beat a worm under a little bobber. It's great time to be out trout fishing. So I guess that's it for the report. If you have any questions or want us to expand on anything, feel free to call the shop, 241-4225, and we can try to point you in the right direction. Otherwise, post your comments and pictures below. Love to see what folks are catching out there. How did your opening day go? Love to hear it. And if you, like I said, with the new digital brag board, if you want to send photos to info@dsbait.com, I'll be putting those up, and we'll make the brag board here fill that out a little bit more. Anyway, thanks for joining us today. Sorry for the long and late report, but we will. I want to wish you luck, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much.